If I could ask the senator to yield further for a question. There was a recent episode within the last 2 years where the Public Broadcasting Corporation took a show off the air by Bill Moyers and wanted to replace it with a show authored by the Wall Street Journal. And there were complaints, obviously, that Mr. Moyers was too liberal in content. Does the senator from Minnesota believe that that was a fair outcome, or would he concede it would be a fairer outcome to allow the American people to watch both shows by the Wall Street Journal and Bill Moyers and to hear both points of view and decide what they agreed with?
Mr. President, two observations. First, I'm thrilled that I'm having this discussion with the senator from Illinois. And my concern is I just offered an amendment which was objected to. Had the amendment not been objected to, we would have a time for a full debate on this amendment. The senator from Illinois, I know the senator from South Dakota has a great interest in this issue. I presume that my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, senator from Massachusetts, junior senator from Massachusetts, has raised concerns about that we should reinstate the Fairness Doctrine, has said that publicly. I would love to have this debate. And yet I stand here offering an amendment objected to, which will limit the debate, and so we're having this colloquy. And I appreciate that and will respond. But I'm disappointed that the other side of the aisle will not give us an opportunity for a full debate on this issue. In fact, I think I want all sides to be heard. What I don't want, and where the fundamental disagreement, is for the regulatory power of government to sit in judgment as Big Brother, to oversee and take stock with pencil and pad and take notes. Well, we had Sean Hannity over here, and now we've got to get somebody on the left over there. Balance should be heard, but we have a marketplace that provides that opportunity. We have folks who support the senator from Illinois' perspective. We have folks who support my perspective. Sometimes we're the same. But for government to dictate, that's the concern about that's why the FCC got rid of the Fairness Doctrine in '87. It's why the Supreme Court has raised questions about the necessity of the Fairness Doctrine. I don't think it's constitutional. We haven't got to that question.
Senator, yield for a question.
Mr. President, I will yield to one further question.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I really wish that through the Commerce Committee or the appropriate committee of jurisdiction we can really get into this question. But the senator is arguing that the marketplace can provide. What is the senator's response if the marketplace fails to provide? What if the marketplace does not provide opportunities to hear both points of view? Since the people who are seeking the licenses are using America's airwaves, does the government, speaking for the people of this country, have any interest at that point to step in and make sure there is a fair and balanced approach to the information given to the American people?
President, I'll respond to the final question here. Very clear disagreement here. The government does not have the responsibility to regulate content of speech. That's what the First Amendment is about. It's exactly what the First Amendment is about. Government's not supposed to be regulating content. And in a time in 1949 when you had 3 network TV stations, basically when you had limited channels of communication, I presume there was a legitimate concern on the part of some that in fact government needs to step in and ensure balance. But now we're in 2007. We're at a time where we've got 20,000 opportunities for stations and satellite, where you have cable, you have blogs, you have a whole range of information. I think it would be, I can't even conceive that the market cannot provide opportunities for differing positions, because it does. And in the end, consumers also have a right, based on the market, to make choices. And so if they make choices that say we want to hear more of one side than the other, that's okay. And I think it's very dangerous. I say to my friend Phil, I think it's very dangerous for government to be in the position of deciding what's fair and balanced, because as we see on the floor of the Senate, oftentimes amongst ourselves, hopefully learned individuals who had the great humble opportunity to serve in the U.S. Senate, we have differences as to what is fair and balanced. And so the reason I think we have a First Amendment is that we get government out of the measuring, controlling, dictating, regulating content. And that's my concern, and that's what this amendment is about. And I would love to have the debate with the senator from Illinois. I would have hoped that this amendment would simply have been put in the queue, would have been heard. I think Americans love a fair fight. I think Americans love this kind of dialogue. There's nothing fair about the Fairness Doctrine. There's nothing fair if the intent here, really, and I think we've got to lay it on the table, the intent of this is to kind of shut down or to limit the conservative talk radio. That's where the concern is. And yet, as I said before, one can raise questions about balance in the print media, one can raise questions about balance in the broadcast media, but I don't think it's the role of government to be sitting there listening and then weighing, deciding what's fair and balanced, and then requiring under penalty a broadcaster to say you have to then present this opposing point of view. Because what's going to happen, Mr. President, and history has shown this, broadcasters are simply going to say, let's do something else. Why be in that position where there's a line that may be crossed that I don't know what that line is? That line may change depending on who's sitting there as an FCC chair. And again, as I said before, beyond the market principle, First Amendment principles, there are market principles. Talk radio has flourished because the market, the consumer says, I want to listen. And they have then been given choices. They can simply turn off the dial, they can shut off the radio if they don't want to listen, but it has flourished. And it's flourished because of demand, and that's the market, not because of government command, not because of government control. We don't want the government regulating content. Like never before, Americans have a wealth of information and viewpoint thanks to cable, television, radio, and internet, and that's a good thing, and let it flourish. John Kennedy stated, we are not afraid to entrust the American people with unpleasant facts, foreign ideas, alien philosophies, and competitive values. For a nation that is afraid to let its people judge the truth and falsehood in an open market is a nation that is afraid of its people. Mr. President, I'm not afraid of the people. I'm not afraid of the people having access to the information, ideas that they want to have access to. But I am afraid of the government stepping in and regulating content. We have a First Amendment that's the underpinning, the foundation of all the other amendments. The Fairness Doctrine flies in the face of that. It was rejected. It was rejected in 1987. The idea of bringing it back today is a very, very bad idea. This amendment specifically includes the Armed Forces Network. Our folks are out there on the front line fighting. They should be able to tune into whatever they want to tune into. And they shouldn't be thinking that back home someone at the FCC is listening and monitoring and deciding what is fair and what is balanced. Let the people decide. Let the market decide. Let the First Amendment flourish. Mr. President, with that, I yield the floor.
The Senator from Florida.